Right, should we kick things off?
Yeah, let's do it.
So how is everyone? Everyone good? Thanks everyone for joining. This is our second webinar now. So obviously usually I do these events face to face, but due to kind of situation, I had to slightly adjust, and now I've gone online, which is very exciting. But yeah, can everyone, by the way, see my screen? Just raise your hand if you can see my screen. Oh, perfect, cool. Everyone can see me. Awesome. So we're going to be discussing today, obviously, how to land your first role in cybersecurity. So essentially, what we're going to be doing is going through the presentation, kind of giving you tips and advice on how you can get your first role in security. And obviously at the end, we'll go to kind of a Q&A style. But yeah, this is great for those of you who perhaps are at university, or you just graduated and you want to kind of get into the industry, or for those of you who perhaps want a career change and want to know how to move into security if you're not already in the security world. So first of all, I think I'll do just a kind of analysis on who we've got on the call. So you raise your hand if you're at university at the moment. Okay, cool. Quite a few of you, awesome. And how many of you are perhaps looking for a career change right now? Okay. Awesome. Oh, a decent split actually. And how many of you already work in security and are looking for a new job right now? Okay, a few of you as well. Awesome. It's good to know. So we've got a real kind of mixed bag. Awesome. So we'll go to introductions first of all. So I'm joined by the amazing Tulin Sevgin today. Thanks, Tulin. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So hey everyone, my name is Tulin and I currently work at UpGuard. And I guess I'll just give a quick career highlight. I've worked in and out of the IT space and also security. My love for it kind of started when I was doing my graduate program at one of the Big Four consultancies. So I was on a security project a few times and I found it really interesting, and it really got my adrenaline rushing through because I did a couple of social engineering projects, so it was very cool. And yeah, I've been at UpGuard since last October, and I'm loving it here. We're doing some really cool, great stuff, and I look after one of the cyber risk tools that we have. So, and part of that is our managed service offering, which is our third-party risk management, and that's what I kind of manage and deal with every day. So yeah.
Amazing. Thanks, Tulin. And yeah, myself, so my name's Charlotte Osborne. I'm a senior recruitment consultant specialising in cybersecurity. Been in the cybersecurity world for about 2 years now. My background previously was in PR and communications, obviously very kind of female dominated industry. So when I first moved into cybersecurity a couple of years ago, I was like, wow, like where are all the females at? And I'll go to meetups, and kind of for every one woman there was like 20 men. So I thought about this meetup group called Women in Cybersecurity Sydney, which is all about connecting women across the industry and creating a safe place to network and also educate and help women get into the industry as well. And it's open to men and women, it's open to everyone. But yeah, it's just a safe place for people to network who perhaps feel more comfortable going to meetups where it is predominantly kind of male dominated. So yeah, let's get started on the, so just to let you know as well, feel free throughout this to put your questions in the Q&A tab at the bottom. And at the end of the talk, we will go through the best of those kind of questions as well, and kind of go through them as we can. So cool. So this is going to a step-by-step guide on how to kind of get your first role in the industry. So I think for myself, and what I feel you should do first is think about kind of what you want to do and what you want to specialise in. Security is so broad and there's so many different avenues you can take. So I think the key thing to do is to understand where your skills lie, what interests you, and what you want to kind of go into, as that really impresses kind of employers, hiring managers, recruiters to kind of know what you want to do. So we're going to run through a few of the kind of key areas. Would you agree with that? Would you think that it's important to kind of know kind of which area of security you want to go into first?
I mean, I think there's so many different avenues you can go down, as you mentioned, but you know, it really depends on whether you're starting out in the industry brand new, like fresh out of uni or a TAFE course or something like that, or if you're trying to kind of transfer your current skill set into the industry. So I think that will kind of define which direction you will go within cybersecurity. Because if you want to transfer skills and obviously not take such a big pay cut and all of that kind of stuff, then you probably need to be a little bit more smarter with which kind of role that you take in cybersecurity, if that makes sense. But we can dive into that a little later on. Yeah,
totally. Awesome. So so the first thing that, oh, why is it not working? Here we go. So the first area I've put down here is GRC. This is one of the main focus areas that I focus on in my desk. So this is kind of an area which perhaps is slightly less technical, and it's better suited to someone who's got a strong business mindset, good communication skills, and it's all about obviously making sure that the business that you work for is complying with various standards, regulations, and someone who is able to communicate effectively with senior management and the board. So someone who's, I've mentioned, got good communication skills, great business mindset. But yeah, Tulin, obviously you come from a risk background yourself. Why would you think someone want to go into GRC, or what's great about working in that space?
You know, I think GRC is very important, and I think in the last probably 2-3 years, we've seen this area grow quite a lot, especially in the security space. So there's been quite a focus on, you know, compliance and risk and managing those areas very well together with security. I know in the past, you know, it's always kind of seen like the poor cousin on the side. And you know, it's like a tick the box activity. No one really wants to do it. It's like annoying to do. So you know, we see a lot of regulations coming into play here. You know, a lot of compliance requirements, all the different types of standards in cybersecurity. Like, you know, you've got ISO 27001, PCI DSS. You got APRA here in Australia with CPS 234. So you're really seeing now all of these regulations tying together governance, risk, compliance with security, and the importance that it plays in this industry, because, you know, it is so wide, and, you know, everything is so endless in security. There's always something new going on. There's always constant new risk coming up every day. So you need to really make sure that you're on top of it. So, you know, I feel like if you do have like a governance, risk, compliance background, you could easily transfer these skills across into the security industry. The only challenge that you may have is probably just more of your technical understanding and understanding of cybersecurity and how different companies are kind of, you know, implementing the different frameworks in their organizations, and understanding what their risk appetite is for cybersecurity in their organization. So, you know, I think this is probably one of the easier areas that you can, you know, transfer your skills across into from other industries. It is a little bit more challenging, but you know, it's something quite easy to learn if you're willing to learn about all those different kind of standards and regulations. And there's so much content out there as well. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you that, you know, this one's probably the easiest thing you can move around with.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, it's so in demand at the moment. It's a really growing space. It's not going to stop growing. In financial services, consulting, there's always a need for strong GRC people. So if you're interested in that space, and you know, you have that kind of business mindset with the kind of IT knowledge as well, it's a great kind of option for you.
Yeah.
So security operations. So this is kind of comprising, you know, incident response. It's comprising forensic analysis. So people who can work in perhaps a SOC environment, security operations centre, they can often be 24-hour roles where, you know, you have to be hands-on, you know, defending the network, doing all the kind of incident response as I mentioned. So it's a lot more hands-on technical, requires very analytical mind, but again, it's a very in-demand skill set at the moment, and again, it's growing. But yeah, Tulin, your thoughts on secure operations?
Yeah, I mean, I think this area is constantly growing. There's always room for more people in security operations. So, you know, I feel like these are the types of roles which are quite specialized. So a lot of companies will struggle to find really good people who know their stuff in this area. And it's hard to find, you know, experienced people, but also younger people who are looking to kind of specialize in these areas. And the reason for this is because most of the time when graduates or newcomers come into any kind of industry, you really want to start at a, not a generic level, but at the high top level, and, you know, try to see and experience all different facets of that industry before you kind of go in and specialize in one area. Because sometimes what you think you may want, especially for grads, like when you're studying, you may think you really enjoy it and love it, but when you start working on it, you extremely hate it. And we see this all the time. And it's completely normal. You know, don't feel like you're backtracking if that happens to you, but it's always good, you know, which we'll probably touch on later on with those grad programs that you apply for jobs, that, you know, you get to do that rotation in different areas and see how each of these teams operate and work. And then, you know, you can decide whether or not that is the right fit for you. So, you know, again, with this, you do need, you will need some sort of specialized certifications with some of these roles. I know that it does help quite a lot, especially, you know, with like incident response, there's like with ethical hacking, pen testing and all of that. So it definitely helps, but there's a lot of companies who are willing to hire juniors, train them up, and then also pay for those certifications. So I wouldn't worry too much about trying to get all of your certs before you get your first full-time role.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And yeah, you mentioned obviously people kind of start in this kind of role and then kind of realise it's not for them. That's absolutely fine. A lot of people that I work with, that I've placed, have started off in a SecOps role and then have kind of branched off towards perhaps GRC or into architecture or into consulting. So it's a great place to kind of start your career in security as well and understand kind of all of it from a broader level and then kind of branch off into other areas. But yeah, amazing. And then threat intel, so there's a space that I'm seeing grow pretty rapidly, and a lot more kind of demand is coming through for people with threat intel backgrounds. And people that I've placed in threat intel roles aren't necessarily always technical. Perhaps they come from a criminology and policing kind of intelligence background, and they have that kind of mindset and an interest in IT, and they can apply those skills into a threat intel role. So there's a lot of different avenues kind of to get into threat intel, and it's a really interesting space. So Tulin, what are your thoughts on threat intel, and what do you feel you need to be able to achieve to get into that kind of space?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, basically, I'll kind of reverse engineer this a little bit. Like when you come into cybersecurity and you want to work in some of these more technical or more specialized focused roles, particularly like pen testing and ethical hacking, social engineering and all of that, you need to be able to think and act exactly how a criminal will think and act.
Yeah.
So, and when I say that, like this comes into play for those who might be studying psychology, who have an interest in that kind of stuff, because you actually, you know what people are thinking, how they think, why they react certain way that they do. So that's where, those skills you can kind of incorporate into roles like this, especially if the cybersecurity world kind of interests you in that way. And, when I was working on some social engineering projects, like that's exactly how we needed to think. We needed to think and act exactly how a criminal would think and act. So when I was doing those projects, I can't exactly say what they were, but I can say that it was with the government, and you know, we basically had to infiltrate buildings, infiltrate data centers. Within those buildings, all kind of manned by the government. So, you know, to be able to do that, I had to kind of like dress a certain way, think a certain way, watch people. So that's another really important thing. Like, you need to have skills where you're very good at watching and picking up small little things and small little behaviors in people, and trying to kind of, I know this sounds really bad, like I promise I'm not a criminal, but like you got to like watch people and kind of pick out the weakest link out of those that you're watching and seeing. And you know, that's where it comes into like that behavior analytics type of thing as well. And what I find with roles like this is, you know, if you have done kind of like a data analytics type of role even, or you have that background in your education, then you can easily apply that skill set to any of these types of roles, because that is so important as well when it comes to threat intel and forensics. If you think about it, in cybersecurity, when breaches happen or other security incidents, they're quick to go and analyze data, analyze logs, see what's going on, see how they got in, see what they took. So, you know, attention to detail is very important in roles like this, and being able to kind of mimic and act a certain way to get around and get in and all that. So, yeah, if you feel like you've got that type of mindset or interest in that area, it would be, you know, you would probably do very well in your interview process, and you would be able to land a job, because anyone who can see, you know, that passion behind it, and, you know, the way you talk about it, and the skills, and probably your educational experience, then they would be quickly bringing you on board. And I think the fin services industry is quite big in this area. You know, all the big banks, you know, credit facilities, all of those would, you know, they've got massive threat intel and forensic teams. So
yeah, absolutely. And consulting as a massive space for threat intel as
well.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. Accenture and the Big Four, a huge demand for it. And like I say, like I've placed people who haven't come from a technical background, they've come from a criminology background, but because they've thought that way that you mentioned, Tulin, around that kind of criminal mindset and thinking how a criminal would think, and they can do that, so they can teach them technical stuff, you know. So if you have that interest, then it's you can land a job in that space. Cool. Pen testing. So again, this is a very kind of in-demand kind of skill set, and it's also a space which is really lacking females, and we really need more women in the space, because it's one of my kind of key focus areas again, and always trying to get more girls into pen testing. It's everyone kind of thinks it's just coding. It's not just coding. There's more to it than that. You know, you need to be able to communicate, to translate the findings to clients and to stakeholders, and it's not just the coding. So just to kind of clear that up first of all, but again, it is an industry where you require certifications, really. Like OSCP is the main certification for pen testing, or there's also the CEH, which is I'd say OSCP is definitely more kind of highly regarded, I would say, but CEH is also a great one to get to start out. But yeah, it's all about, obviously, it's really fun. It's hacking into people's systems. Like, what's not to learn about it, right? But Tulin, what are your thoughts on the pen testing space, and what are you doing in that area?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, there's a lot of companies out there who do pen testing, who are really well known for this stuff. And yeah, I've never done pen testing myself, but I've seen it happen. I've hired people to do it for, you know, other companies I've worked at. So, you know, it's a great way if you've got that technical background and the technical skill and an interest in, you know, breaking into systems and applications and kind of doing all of that stuff and trying, you know, problem solving. If you really love doing that stuff, then this is probably a good role for you. It's a little bit different to, you know, like ethical hacking and all of that kind of stuff, because this one, you know, you're hired for it. You have like a set kind of scope of what you're going to be doing. And you generally, like you said, Charlotte, you need to have really good communication skills, because when you're dealing with your clients or customers, you need to be able to understand what are the risks that they kind of want to bring up to the surface, and you need to try to foresee any risk that you could bring up to the surface from your penetration testing. And from that, you kind of, you'll sit down and you'll scope it out. So you need to be able to understand what the business requires, what they want and need, and you need to turn that into something that they're going to understand, and also you, because you're going to be doing that work. And again, risk management here comes into play, because once you've done with your penetration testing, you need to be able to report your findings in a way that's going to be translated to the business. And the best way to do this, and the only way they really understand, is by assessing it based on risk. So, you'll see a lot of pen test results that come up with critical, high, medium, low risk like findings. And once you come up with those, you need to talk about it with the client that you're dealing with. And generally, anything that's critical that comes up from any of these pen tests, you usually with the client at the same time when you're doing most of this stuff, and they'll fix it straight away. So generally, anything critical will be fixed like pretty immediately while the pen test is happening. But the others, depending how bad they are, they'll either fix it straight away, or they'll just wait for the report and probably do some sort of project around it to get it fixed up. So yeah, I mean, certifications are important in this field. They do get you quite far. And I think a lot of companies as well, is if they do have in-house pen testing, they do struggle to find really good pen testers, because a lot of the time when companies hire pen testers, those pen testers won't leave very easily, and they generally will stay, because they do get paid quite well, and they're generally quite comfortable and looked after. So, it is tough to find really good pen testers out there, 100%.
Absolutely. And yeah, like once you get into pen testing and you get experience in pen testing, like you will always be in work. Like there's constant demand, whether that be contract or permanent, like you will always be in work. There's always work out there for you. So if it's something that interests you, definitely go for it. Look at certifications and go from there, because yeah, it's a great place to be in. IAM. So this isn't always kind of seen as security, but it's often kind of paired with security. So I thought it's worth having in here as well, as IAM development particularly is one of the areas that's most in demand. There's also other areas of IAM, so working on the policy side, GRC side, IAM BAs as well. So it's not all kind of hands-on development, but development's definitely the one that's most in demand. But IAM is basically referring to access management. So basically you're managing all of the access and privileges of network users for that kind of organisation. Have you done much work in IAM at Tulin? Have you worked with IAM much at all?
No, I haven't done any kind of direct work in it myself, but when I was working at some of the big banks and stuff, you have got your IAM people, like the separate teams, and you do work together with them, particularly on any new projects which are introducing any new like systems or network changes or applications that a particular business is going to use. So, this does play a big role in that, where you need to kind of define and understand how the business is going to use it, who will need access exactly, and how you're going to kind of script that into the application against the rest of the network. So I kind of know at a high level about this area. I don't know too much in terms of the types of roles or how to really get into this side of the industry. However, the banks they're always looking for people in IAM, and I know in consulting as well. It's quite big amongst the big four. And if this is something that interests you, and you like to kind of problem solve and look at different ways to kind of implement solutions, then this might be something that's great for you as well. And you can learn the skills along the way. And you can also do, I think there's certain certifications in this as well, but I don't remember what they are exactly, but there are a few that you can do. But generally, the business, once they bring you on board, will get you to sit through any courses that they need you to sit through. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting area, and it's something that I've seen a lot of my old clients from previous roles that have really struggled with this, because most companies don't have a separate team for IAM. It's kind of just sits within IT, and sometimes security, and it's just expected of them to kind of know and fix it and do it. And that's where you'll come into a lot of issues and problems with access privileges, and you see that a lot across the board with the small to mid-sized organisations.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like you say, it is an area where it is very much still in demand, as a lot of areas across security are, and especially in development. And usually developers in the IAM space have a kind of tool that they specialise in, like SailPoint or ForgeRock or Okta. So if you have experience in perhaps scripting languages, SQL, and as you mentioned, like problem solving as well, like it's a great space to kind of go into and develop your skills. And you can, you know, move into security from IAM as well, or vice versa. So it's a great pairing to have. So yeah, step 2. So obviously build your resume. This is perhaps one of the most important steps, is your resume gives employers their first impressions of you. So it's really important to get this right. I've given an example here on how to just structure it out. What I would say is keep it as simple as possible. I get a lot of CVs through with a lot of fancy graphics and photos and things on it, and that's not needed. Like, just keep it simple, have the name on there, and the certifications that you can, your CISP or your CISM or your OSCP, put that at the top so that you can see it. Obviously your LinkedIn profile link, put that on there. If you've got perhaps a portfolio, or you're a pen tester and have a hack the box profile, put that on there so people can like link to that and see what you've been doing. But yeah, start off with a bio, 1 to 2 paragraphs maximum. I get a lot of people kind of sending me like 2-page bios, and it's just not needed. 1 or 2 paragraphs is absolutely fine. Listing bullet points, your key skills, technologies used. So if you've got experience in perhaps, you know, pen testing, and you can do, you know, you can script, or, you know, in GRC, you know, the ISO standard, then put that all in there so it's clearly written out. Career history, so add in their company name, how long you've worked there for, overview on organisation, so that they kind of know what the company does as well, and just a list of your Cybersecurity achievements, followed by education, pretty self-explanatory, and then anything that you do outside of work, which is really important, I think, for when you're starting out in the industry, to show off kind of, you know, how passionate about you are in the space, what you've been doing outside of work. So any volunteer work that you've done, any public speaking that you've done, meetups that you volunteered at, against kind of CTF challenges that you've done to capture the flag, that's pen testing again. So anything that you've done around that space, really great to show off, because I think passion and enthusiasm is almost, if not more, important than technical skills. So it's great to show that off there. Any interests and hobbies, and obviously put your references on that as well. So that's all it needs to be. So it's very, very basic. But Tulin, do you have anything else to add from a security standpoint that perhaps you could add in, or thoughts on that?
No, I think you've covered it off pretty well. You know, you're more experienced in this stuff than I am. I have not done a CV in a very long time. I'm lucky I haven't really had to, which is quite nice. So I personally wouldn't even know what to put in it if I had to now. So this is kind of a good refresher for me too. But yeah, I think you've covered off everything. Like, you know, don't go too crazy with it. No one wants to read a 6-page document. You know, so you want to keep it short and sweet, but straight to the point. And like you said, it's also important to focus on any extracurricular activities you've done, especially if you're a graduate, and, you know, you're coming in fresh into your career. A lot of companies like to see that, you know, you have that social side of you. You can communicate, you can manage things, you can manage little projects, and, you know, you've volunteered for certain things. So that's always great to include. And if you haven't done any of that stuff, then I would strongly recommend that you do. You know, even at university, like, there's all those groups and I don't know what they're called, groups and those membership things, like team things you can be part of and volunteer. So that kind of stuff is good as well, like the IT association or society or whatever they're called now. So you know, go and register for those, because you can also put that in there, and, you know, makes it look like you're attending events and you're attending meetings and all of that stuff. So that's also very important. So don't underplay that. And yeah, you know, they want to know you're a real human as well.
Exactly, yeah. Make it personal and absolutely. And if you haven't got any experience yet to put under your career history, just move up your education and your extracurricular activities that you've done. So put on there, you know, if you've got a degree, what the degree's in, any certifications that you've done, and just accentuate more the volunteer work, etc. that you've done. If you've not got any career history, just yeah, that's absolutely fine. Cool. And then LinkedIn profile, also very important, as again, one of the first things employers will do is look at your LinkedIn profile and cross-reference that with your CV. And also it's kind of a great place to connect with hiring managers and employers as well. Got a stat here that 77% of recruiters and hiring managers rely on LinkedIn more than any other hiring method. And I would also agree with that. I find the majority of my candidates from LinkedIn. So it's really important to perfect your profile and make it attractive to employers. So first of all, make sure that your career history is the same as your CV, as any discrepancies, you know, we will notice and we will ask you about it. So make sure it's replicated, and also just make sure that just copy and paste your CV onto your LinkedIn profile. That's the easiest thing to do. Like all of your responsibilities, all your duties that you've done, just put that all on there. Make sure that your profile is professional. Try to avoid like selfies or photos of you, like, you know, at the pub with your mates, like just to keep it very professional. You know, a good headshot. If you've not got a good headshot, just get someone to take a photo of you in front of like perhaps a white wall or something. Just keep it all professional. Add a headline. So as you can see, mine's cybersecurity recruitment consultant, recruitment security. So put on there kind of, you know, what you're doing. So if you're a graduate, put that on there. You know, don't put on there that you're looking for new opportunities, because that can sometimes come across as desperate, I would say, and you want to be attractive to employers. And if you put that on there, it can put off-putting sometimes. So what I'd say instead is to tick the open to opportunities tab, and you can see that on your profile. So underneath kind of where it says your title, it should say show recruiters you're open to new opportunities. Tick that and it will show employers and hiring managers that you are open to new roles. Endorsements and recommendations. So get your friends, your colleagues, your fellow kind of uni students to write recommendations for you, as these are really great and a good bonus to have on your profile when looking through it. And if I see a candidate who I'm not quite sure of, but I see they've got good recommendations and endorsements, like that's automatically kind of puts them kind of top of the pile because I know that they're recommended. So it's to kind of get that from people, and then just grow your network as well. So have a look at kind of who the industry leaders are across security, who you know, post a lot on LinkedIn, who the recruiters are in your space. Connect with everyone, because that's one of the best ways to get a job, to be honest, is to connect on LinkedIn, write regular posts as well, get your name out there, get your brand out there, share content and be a thought leader, as employers will see this and respect this, and you know, it's a great way to get your first role as well. So but yeah, Tulin, obviously you use LinkedIn as well. Like, what are your thoughts on LinkedIn and the importance of it in the security industry?
Yeah, so I mean, I think just in general in your professional career, it's really important to have LinkedIn. You know, like you said, you can grow your network, you can meet a lot of people, you can see some really great content from a lot of different people out there. And it's a great source of information. So, you know, a lot of people post heaps of videos, articles, blog posts, you know, they share a whole heap of stuff there that you could probably learn from and see what they're doing. And not just that, but you can also look at what someone's doing and kind of make it better and implement that in, you know, wherever you're working or for your customers or clients if you're a client-based role. Yeah, I just think it's really important. And like you said, like not only recruiters kind of look through to see who the candidates are, but companies also do that as well. You know, so you go in and you kind of just have a little stalk and you see what they're doing, you see who they've connected with, you know, their previous history, education, and, you know, it's really easy to also kind of tell whether or not some people are making things up as well. So, you know, you want to be as truthful as possible, you know, keep to yourself and keep true to yourself in your profile, because if you paint a different picture on there and then you go to an interview or go to a meeting with somebody, then you don't want to portray yourself as a completely different person, because that's just going to show them that, you're a liar, or you're not really who you say you are on LinkedIn. So just be cautious of that. And probably just like another pointer on this link to the CV and interview process, just keep like, stay to yourself, as in like stay true to yourself, and who you are, because that will show through your CV, your LinkedIn, and also your interviews when you do them face to face. So yeah, everyone wants to see people for who they are. So don't try to fake to be someone else or try to be somebody else. Just be who you are, be yourself, because that will, your passion, your drive, and your interest will shine through that way a lot better.
Yeah, completely agree. Thank you.
Mm.
Amazing. And then next of all, certifications. So this is one of the main questions that I get asked by people, is what certifications to get. And it's a difficult one because every area of security, like some require certifications, some don't. So I would say have a look into kind of the area you want to go into and what's needed for that space. So for example, with pen testing, it's quite important to have at least a CEH certification, ideally an OSCP. OSCP is, I believe, a 24-hour exam, so it is quite intense. So it does require a lot of studying beforehand. So what I would say in the meantime is take part in capture the flag events, hack the box challenges. So you can create a profile and hack the box, and it's basically like kind of virtual pen testing challenges, and you can kind of move up the scoreboard and kind of get more, and it's great to kind of show to employers, hey, I've got this experience, hack the box, this is where I'm up to, and go to capture the flag events. That's again kind of events where you can work in teams to solve different challenges and again learn more about it. And then once you've done a few of those, you perhaps might have the confidence to go and do your OSCP or your CEH as well. But the main certs I would say are your CISSP, which is Certified Information Security Professional, something like that. Is that right, Tulin?
Yeah, I believe so.
Like that.
There's so many, like it's so hard
many.
to keep up with what all of them mean.
Your CISM, yeah, I know. Your CISM is Certified Information Security Manager. GCI, that's great for incident response, as well as instant handling certification. For risk and GRC, I would say that it's not as important to get certified, but risk is a good one to have, or have a look at different standards that are really common, such as CPS 234 and ISO, and familiar standards, because that's also really important for the risk space. But I don't think it's as important to get certified for GRC. Would you agree with that, Tulin, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, not really. I mean, it really depends on the role you're going into in GRC, and like where you're starting your career, because what was it called? There's a couple of little ones that you could do, but they're not really highly sought after in the security industry. I think the best thing you can do is, as long as you've got the experience and the knowledge on what risk management is, what compliance is, what it means to an organization as a whole, and if you understand the key standards and regulations, and any other compliance requirements for each industry that you would be working in, then that is more valuable than any other certification in GRC. You've written there ISO and CPS. You've also got GDPR. You've got a couple of the US ones like CCPA, and there's another one. I forget what it was. I think New York one. And then there's what else is there? There's like PCI DSS, which is really important. You've got other NIST standards as well. So you've got the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. There's the NIST 853 something as well. So there's plenty of them out there, and if you become familiar with all of them and what they mean, then that's going to be more valuable to you than anything else. But you need to remember that each of these standards are for different industries. So they are security standards and risk standards, but they are applied in each industry quite differently. So, like PCI DSS is a payment cards industry security standard, and that would not be applicable to every single company. Not every single company has to be certified against that. So just be mindful of the ones that you do want to learn on, and as long as you have a high level understanding of most of them, but an in-depth understanding of the ones that actually matter in the role or in the role you want to go to, then make sure you do learn that. And there's so much content out there for it. So, if you just Google it, you'll learn a lot. There's heaps of articles, videos, everything. And there are short courses and stuff you can do. I don't really recommend them too much. I think you'll get a lot more out of it if you just do your own research for a few hours instead of spending a few grand on that stuff. Because in the end of the day, you can't really get certified for it yourself. So there's no point in really spending that much money unless your company wants to pay for it. It's a different story.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, like a lot of companies will pay for them for you. So if you finish uni, you've got a certification, and you can't spend thousands of dollars on one, I wouldn't worry too much. Like it's not a deal breaker. A lot of people. Yeah, a lot of companies will pay for it for you, so it's not a necessity. The only space I'd say perhaps it is more needed is pen testing, but other than that, I wouldn't worry about certifications too much. Having experience and passion and kind of is more important. Cool. Graduate schemes are also a great place to start out your degree. So if you're graduating from university, or you perhaps want to have a career change, look at doing graduate schemes first of all. So it's great for those of you who've got, as mentioned, a degree but no industry experience. So a lot of the big four consultancies do great graduate schemes. So obviously Deloitte, KPMG, PwC, and what am I missing there? EY. So they do great grad schemes. They're great for training and development and to get your foot in the door. Also, with companies that do them include like other consultants like Accenture, Thales, Telstra do a great one, Fujitsu. So have a look out there and see kind of what's out there. A lot of them do have quite long applications online, but it's worth looking into, and it's a great place to start out. Tulin, did you start out on a graduate scheme with Deloitte, was it?
I did, I did. I started out at Deloitte.
Would you recommend them?
Yeah, I do recommend graduate programs, and not just Deloitte, but really any of them that you apply for that you might get accepted to. And that's because, especially at the consultancies, like you learn so much, and yes, they're not the best to work for if you don't really like that kind of environment, but you get a range of experience from, they really teach you how to build rapport with customers and clients, how to deal with clients, how to best manage your time, manage different projects, and you pick up little skills that you probably wouldn't pick up while you're studying at university, and it really kind of prepares you for the next steps in your career, especially if consulting isn't your thing for the big four for the rest of your life. Like if you don't want to be a partner, you basically don't stay there. So I think they're great, and I think all graduates should be applying for graduate schemes, because it really is an eye-opener, and not only from the sense that you gain so much like training, development stuff, but also different skills, but also you get to see all the different industries and different companies out there that you probably don't even know exist and what they do. So, and most of the time, like a lot of people will pick up roles from their clients. Like their clients will kind of be like, we've got this role open. We think you're great because you've been working on a project with them for 3 months. And so, you could land your next job with one of your customers. You just never know. So, don't close the door on that just because, every Tom, Dick and Harry is applying for it, or it's just like a cookie cutter program, because it's really not. And you do learn so much, and it will help you because it's a good kind of building block for your career. Another good one is the big four banks as well here in Australia. They have a pretty good program too, because I know when I was working at a couple of banks, and I met with quite a few of the graduates from there because I knew them from when I was working at Deloitte. They were trainees there, and they were saying like the Westpac one is really cool because you actually get to pick the different areas you want to work in, and you do get placed into those areas. I think it's for like 3 months.
I think you rotate, right?
Yeah, they rotate you around, and those kids, like, they were working on some really cool projects that I didn't even get insight into. So you just never know, and some of them are still there, like they love it, and they're in areas that they really enjoyed working in, and so they're staying there now, and it kind of opens up other doors once you ever want to leave a bank. So you know, don't close the door on this. Definitely apply for a few different ones, not just one. You know, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And like I said, stay true to yourself, because they really do like that. Not only do you technically need to have skills, but it's also your soft skills. You know, like how you're speaking, communicating, the way you present yourself, you know, your drive and passion. So try to make sure that you are, you know, bringing that across to the person who is interviewing.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely agree with all of that. And some other good ones as well, like Google and Atlassian and those big tech companies, they do some great ones as well. That's the thing about grad schemes, is that you do need a relevant degree in IT or security or the like. So if you don't have a degree just yet, look at doing internships first of all. So get in contact with perhaps smaller security consultancies, for example, who might need an extra pair of hands, or entry-level roles. Like, have a look into those first of all, as obviously with grad schemes you do need a degree, but there are other ways in. So contact people on LinkedIn and see if you can help out with them for a bit, just for free, and get some experience behind you, and you can go forward from there. Events and meetups are really important as well in this space, and 60% of jobs are found through networking, not through applications. So it's really important to get yourself out there, meet people across the industry, and yeah, create an account on Meetup or the like, and see what kind of events are happening in security in your area. Notable events are the likes of B-Side, which is a huge one, CyberCon, ISACA do quite a lot of events. There's a good one run by Charmaine Tan called Cyber Risk Meetup. There's also a body or membership group called AWSM, which is Australian Women in Security Network, and they again help to network women across security. And they've also got one called AWSM Cadets as well, which is aimed at women who are at graduate level or entry level, and helping them to get into the industry. And they run some really great events and webinars too, so check them out as well if you get a chance. And then obviously I run this meetup group called Cybersecurity Sydney, usually every quarter, but at the moment I'm doing it more regularly as the webinars, of course. And see if you can get involved in that panel events as well, because that's a great way to get your name and your brand out there. Because I've had graduates on my panels before, and it's great, kind of given a really great kind of insight from a person at that kind of level. So reach out to people who kind of run the event, see if you can be involved, whether it be just volunteer at the event or take part in the panel, as then obviously people who are hiring will see you taking part in that panel and realise that, you know, you're passionate about the space, you know what you're talking about, and it's a great way to get into the industry. But yeah, obviously, Tulin, you speak at a lot of events, you attend a lot of events. What are the benefits of doing so?
So, you know, speaking at a lot of events and stuff and doing panels really opens up your network for you, because there's so many different types of people who come to these events. And, you know, I can't stress enough how important it is so early on in your career to attend different industry events and meetups, because like Charlotte said, you might meet your next employer, or if you don't, like you're growing your network, so one day they will help you, or they can even introduce you to someone else who might be looking for someone like you to hire. You know, when I was studying and we had to do, I think it was like an internship thing to graduate, you had to do like, I think it was like a 3-month internship. And, you know, I remember going to all of the different events, and I landed my internship by going to an event and speaking to a specific company. So you never know. Like, you never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to run into. You might run into the CEO, you might run into a CISO, and they might fall in love with you and your personality and your approach and your passion. So, you know, it's really important for you guys to get out there, put yourselves out there, because not everybody does it. And it's those who do it that really kind of are one step ahead. And not just that, but like Charlotte mentioned, it's great for you to build your profile and your brand, and kind of the direction in which you want to go in. You know, I understand that there are some people who aren't, you know, outgoing or don't want to attend these types of things, and they just want to do one specific type of role, and that's the avenue they want to go down, and that's completely fine. But you know, if you want to grow your network and you're looking to make an impact and you want to grow your brand and put your name out there, and try to land, you know, your next role and find out about all these different types of projects and companies and what they do, then I would highly recommend attending as many as you possibly can. Most of them are free, so, you know, make the most of that. And where they're not free, if they've got a small charge, but it's something that you're really interested in, then I would still recommend that you do go. Like like Charlotte said, so there's Meetup, and then there's another one as well, isn't there? There's another app. I forget what it's called now. But Meetup
There's
probably,
Meetup, there's a few, yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you can download these apps on your phone, and then you can tick like the preferences of which areas you're interested in, and then when new events pop up, like it just lets you know that, you know, XYZ is hosting this event. You can
Yeah.
RSVP now.
It like
So,
notifies you, yeah. So
yeah,
you
that's
Meetup pages, it notifies you of like what events they're doing that are coming up as well.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Um,
100%.
I'll try and get through this last slide quite quickly because I know we've got to go to questions from you guys. So very quickly, interview, last step. So again, like this is very basic stuff. People don't always do this, but do prep before an interview. Please research the organisation and who's interviewing you. You know, look at what they've previously worked on. Look at, you know, what clients they work with, because I've had so many candidates go to interviews and they've not had a clue about what organisation they're interviewing for. So it's so important to do your research beforehand, otherwise they will not be impressed. Have a kind of run through different situational questions they might ask around kind of, give an example of when you've worked in a team environment, or give an example of when you've dealt with an incident and how you've handled it. Give an example of good customer service. Like have a look through, there's a lot of things online where you can have a kind of look through example interview questions and just kind of practice how you would answer those. I've also got a document that I can share with you around the kind of questions that I generally asked in interviews and how to best answer. So give me a shout if you want to see that, because it's great to read through before an interview. Also, don't arrive more than 5 minutes early to an interview, or 10 minutes maximum, because otherwise, if you arrive half an hour early to the interview, it will, one, make the interviewer think that you've got nothing else on, and also it will tell them that you're not respecting their time as well. So don't arrive any more than 5 minutes early. Maintain eye contact, obviously, smile, speak clearly, show enthusiasm, and be passionate. I've had people that I've interviewed for roles who have been perfect technically, but I've had feedback afterwards that they were just, you know, just not showing much enthusiasm and less chewing gum. And like, it's so important, even if you've got great technical skills and you still show enthusiasm to the role and what you're interviewing for. And also be resilient. Like, you might have to go through quite a few interviews initially before you get your first role, but don't kind of give up faith. Just keep going. Take every interview as good interview practice for the next one. And if you do get knocked back, just be like, hey, it's all good. You know, I've got a good experience out of this interview, and move forward. But cool. So we've got quite a few questions that have come through, so I'll try and run through as many as I can. Are there any recommended security books, podcasts, or blogs to keep up to date on the security landscape? So myself and Tulin have a very good friend called Carissa Breen, and she does amazing podcasts with people in the security industry. So she's a good person to check out. I think it's called KB Cast that she does.
Yeah.
But do you have any other recommendations on books or blogs? Or
I mean, there's a lot of books. I did have one. It's in my room. I don't remember what it was called. But yeah, there are a lot of books that you can read, but then the problem with books is they go out of date quite quickly because cybersecurity is always changing. So there are a few blogs and people you can follow, like you mentioned, KB and her podcast, because she interviews some really amazing people from all over the world, not just Australia, within the security industry. So I definitely recommend going through that. I'm pretty sure she's on Spotify now as well, so you can find it through there. And then there's, you guys have probably heard of Troy Hunt. He created Have I Been Pawned? So he has a really good blog as well. He's on Twitter, he's on LinkedIn, he's everywhere. He's got his own website. So I would strongly recommend checking him out. You've got a couple of other sites like maybe like Dark Reading, they've got always good blog posts that are quite technical, and also any news and updates on what's going on in the security world. So those are just a few, and you'll probably stumble across more as you filter through these ones. And when you listen to like KB's podcasts and stuff, you'll probably find out what some of those people, what their websites are and what their blogs are, because a lot of them do have that. So yeah, I strongly recommend starting there, and then you can kind of build out from that.
Yeah. Great, perfect. And then also a question from Nick saying, any security trends where the gap in the security space? I'd say all areas, to be honest. Security across the board is a very talent short space. So pretty much any area that you go into is going to be in demand for people, but I'd say definitely pen testing is one of the areas where we're seeing a lot of demand and not enough people. Also, yeah, security operations, so incident response, threat hunting, etc. But yeah, all areas of security are pretty much in demand at the moment.
Yeah.
Can we get a slice from this presentation? Yes, please email me or get me on LinkedIn after this and just ask me for the slides, and I will shoot them across to you. That's no problem. CompTIA Security Plus certification, is this any good? So yeah, I've seen people who have had this certification, and yeah, it's a good one to get. It's one of the main ones, I would say. I don't think it would be as kind of I guess respected as like the CISP and the CISM and the OSCP, etc. But it's definitely a great one to get, especially in pen testing as well. But it's not one of the ones I would like most recommend, if that makes sense. For someone who is considering this career and has no pre-existing IT cybersecurity skills, are the certifications mentioned sufficient? I think we've gone through this already actually, but they're not massively sufficient. So I would say, as I mentioned, like it's more important to get the experience, to try and do internships, go to events, kind of
Sorry guys,
do other things. But then
my NBN just shut itself.
Sunita said, can I talk to you one-on-one or someone in your team to talk about my career change? Of course, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. My name's Charlotte Osborne, so reach out to me on LinkedIn and we can have a chat one-to-one. What advice do you both have on finding a mentor in the industry? That's an interesting one. Tulin, do you have a mentor, or do you know how to go about that?
I mean, yeah, I don't really have a mentor, but I mean, like it formally speaking, but there are a few people who I have in my network who I would regularly kind of reach out to and speak with, who would give me advice and all of that. So I mean, you know, as you grow your network and you move along in your career, you'll probably find that. I would suggest that, you know, as you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, if there's someone specifically who really inspires you, or who you think you would be able to get some great advice and insight from, you know, as you're progressing in your professional career, then I would definitely reach out to them, talk to them, and just ask them, because you know, some people have time and they're willing to make time, and sometimes people just don't have you know, enough time in their day to put aside to be mentoring. I know quite a few universities, depending which one you go to, also have like mentorship, mentee kind of programs as well. So you can always apply for those for your interest, and you'll probably get assigned somebody. But yeah, I mean, I think personally, just reach out to whoever you think is inspiring, and just ask them. Like, you have nothing to lose, right? So just go for it that way.
Yeah.
It's more personable as well.
I've already mentioned AWSN, but again, just highlighting the women as yeah, the cadets of AWSN, like that, I think they run a mentorship program for those who are wanting to get into security. So check those guys out as well, as they're doing amazing things. Any more questions? I had quite a few through, but that are kind of in the same ballpark. I have a few in the chat box as well, so I'll just check that quickly. what would you recommend for experienced IT professionals who want to switch career into cybersecurity? What approach should they take? That's an interesting question. Yeah, I've had a lot of people who kind of moved across into security from IT, so it's not kind of impossible at all. It's definitely doable. Perhaps ask if you can, I don't know, get more exposure into cybersecurity in your current role. Ask your boss, you know, can I get more involved in the security side of things? Again, look into certifications, read up on different topics, go to different events. But yeah, look at different technologies, like in your spare time. Like, for example, if you're interested in pen testing, in your spare time, you can do kind of hack the box challenges, get yourself up to date with different technologies. So it's definitely, it can definitely jump across. What would you say to that, Tulin, to move across from IT into security?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it depends what you're doing in IT. But I
Yeah.
would strongly suggest, like, you know, the company that you work in, have a chat to your manager, or, you know, do your own kind of like little research and look around to see the different teams in the security space at your organization, and kind of have a look and just go and chat with some people from that team and see how it is working in that team, what they do on a day-to-day basis. And, you know, just tell them what interests you, and try to see if there's any kind of opening roles, or if there's, you know, maybe even you could go and sit with them for like an hour or so a week, just to get more of an understanding of what they're doing. Like, I think it's really important for you to have that relationship with your management and also those teams, and just try to work out something that would work for both sides. That's probably the best way to go. I wouldn't go quitting and, you know, applying for new jobs and all of that unless your organization doesn't have a security team. But definitely there are skills within your IT role that you can probably transfer over. You might need to not necessarily take a huge pay cut, but you might need to move into a more junior role because you need to learn how everything works in security. And that's really dependent on what type of role you're going to go into in it. So again, you know, be clear on what you want and what you want to do. Don't just say you want to move into cybersecurity, because there are so many different roles, as you guys saw working through the presentation. So try to figure out what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, and then steer into that direction and talk to the right people, because they will, you know, if they see that you're really interested and you already have a good skill set and a good understanding of technology and IT, then, you know what, there's really nothing stopping you from moving across.
Absolutely agree with all of that. Thank you so much. We'll leave it there, guys, because it is past 1:30 now. But if you haven't had your question answered, just feel free to message me directly, and I'll try to answer them after this webinar. But yeah, thank you all for joining, and thanks so much for Tulin to joining us as well. It's been awesome. And feel free, I usually share kind of webinars on my LinkedIn page. I do them quite regularly now, so keep an eye on that, and also the meetup page as well, and see the ones I've got coming up. And yeah, feel free to connect directly, and yeah, thanks again to Tulin, and see you all soon.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you everyone for coming. But yeah, if you do want to reach out, ask any questions, just connect with me on LinkedIn. And yeah, I'll try my best to answer all of your questions.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.